Welcome back, 3Fers. I'm Bobby Allison.
Konnichiwa, watashi wa Mateo desu.
That's Mateo. I'm the psychologist. He's the theologian.
3F is a psychologist and theologian providing a much-needed commentary on the three most essential elements of life: faith, family, and freedom.
We're going to do another Rip from the Headlines episode. Today we've got a story out of Alpha Hugh Hewitt's radio show. It was written up in Fox News about a segment that he had Dr. Anthony Fauci on, and basically asked him if he thinks that he should step aside, resign, because of the fact that a lot of Americans are still not getting vaccinated, due largely to Hugh Hewitt's eyes, to the fact that Anthony Fauci's been on either side of the argument at various points. He talks about his original noble lie that masks were ineffective, so that he could ensure that providers had an ample supply, because he thought that people would flock to stores and places to buy up masks and PPE. I think it's fair that most people agree, and most people, even those on Fauci's side, would acknowledge that he's been on both sides of pretty much every subject or every dilemma that's come up in this crisis so far. So we just thought it was interesting, and we thought we'd comment on it a bit. Matthew, of course, has been vaccinated. I've had the virus, and I have antibodies that studies show that are just as effective, if not more effective, than the antibodies associated with the vaccine. So we thought, with either of us on kind of either side of the issue, but both pro-vaccine and pro immunity to this thing, but just through various different methods.
But as a point of clarification, I'm not, nor do I believe you are, pro-mandated vaccine.
Yes.
I'm pro-vaccine if it makes sense. And I think for most people, it's a good thing to do and maybe the best thing to do. But I don't believe at this point it should be mandated. I just want to make that clarification. You mentioned the noble lie of mask. Looking back, I feel like a more noble lie would have been one about toilet paper.
Yes. It was very difficult to find toilet paper. And
that would have been a more noble lie.
Paper towels, toilet paper.
Yes.
The weirdest stuff. I mean, toilet paper, why?
Yeah, who needed masks when we were all stuck indoors anyway in our own houses? It was toilet paper we were having trouble.
Were people making masks out of toilet paper?
Yeah.
I mean,
I think so, just wrapping their whole heads like mummies. Yeah.
I know. My mother-in-law would bring us toilet paper. When she'd find it, she would bring us toilet paper. It was like, this is crazy.
She found some.
Yay.
And bury it in the backyard quick.
Finally, I'm going to the bathroom, honey. So, well, I happen to have a special dislike for Dr. Fauci. My wife is a amateur medical enthusiast. She loves to. Well, my wife's a dentist, so she's got a degree in biomedical science and most of the way towards a master's in public health. So she actually is
the amateur.
So she is actual, but since she doesn't do that for a living,
she dabbles.
She dabbles, but she's brilliant, and she researches this stuff, and I think she probably dislikes Anthony Fauci more than most people, but because he's been on either side of every issue, even since the AIDS epidemic back in the 80s. Anthony Fauci's been just this arrogant, in your face proponent for pharmaceutical companies and the money makers behind a lot of these drug companies and FDA and the CDC and all this stuff. And the fact that that just always has to throw his opinion out there before the information comes in, it just shows that he's just not a very discerning human being. And the fact that this radio show host, Hugh Hewitt, which I think he's a good, I mean, I don't know if you know much about Hugh Hewitt.
I'm not overly familiar, to be honest.
He's on Meet the Press every now and then. He's pretty well known for, I think he has his radio show on the West Coast somewhere, but so he confronts Dr. Fauci, and of course, Dr. Fauci laughs at him and tries to deny everything and thinks that he's done his best, and that he's just this old soul, salt of the earth guy that just deserves to still be out there in front and center, when he's just been wrong so much and caused so much chaos and so much confusion about this pandemic.
Yeah, there's been so much back and forth and misinformation and flip-flopping from Fauci and others that I don't think it's right to fault or demonize anyone who's hesitant about getting a vaccine and saying that they don't care about others and they're killers when there's been so much misinformation. There is reason for some to maybe be skeptical. Like I said, for me and my family, I think for most people, it does make sense to get the vaccine. A lot of those who are still dying from COVID, God rest their souls, are people who have not been vaccinated. Now, we have seen that there are some side effects to vaccines. So there's enough on both sides of things that I don't think it's right to demonize anyone who's either for or against. We've got to step back and realize that people know this has been politicized. And if you take any of it to be gospel truth, one way or the other, that's terribly naive at this point. And yeah, Fauci's played a huge part in that.
Have your swollen testicles gotten better?
They got smaller after the vaccine. No, not really. I've heard reports that some older men have claimed that theirs have gotten smaller after the vaccine, but that's not to say don't Nicki Minaj because I said that.
I think there's a big difference between larger testicles and swollen testicles. That's just it's just a nod to Nicki Minaj's brother's friend who had the swollen testicle. Anyway,
something like that.
I think the biggest harm this has done, the most harm that's been done by Dr. Fauci is to our medical community, our medical leaders. We used to trust our doctors. We used to trust our clinicians to make good decisions for us. Now, since this pandemic has started, there's been various physicians that come out with disagreements on the best methods of treating this disorder or this disease, the best methods of prophylaxis, the best methods, or doctors that recommend that their pregnant patients delay getting the vaccine. So we've got these entities that are placing themselves above our individual doctors, and then demonizing these guys when they have an opinion or suggest something regarding treatment that runs counter the CDC or runs counter Dr. Fauci. And it's totally undercut. I think so now. And then on the flip side of that, we also have doctors that feel forced to toe the line. For instance, local doctors here that refuse to prescribe ivermectin, or pharmacists that refuse to fill ivermectin because they're told that it's ineffective, that it's horse dewormer. And of course, there's information on all sides that suggests it could be effective. It may not be effective. But it's just this whole thing. So I think that's the impact Dr. Fauci's had with his meddling in our system, that he's totally downgraded or dumbed down the ability for physicians, for pharmacists, for any clinician to do their jobs autonomously, correctly, ethically. You have medicine that's, you're not supposed to do harm. The Hippocratic Oath suggests, you take an oath to never do harm. And I think that that's been clouded greatly because it's all about political groupthink now, instead of doctors individually approaching their patients with the idea that I want to do right by this person. I want to give them the best treatment possible for this person, instead of listening to the masses, listening to this authoritarian moment.
Do you think Fauci's capable of resigning? Do you think there is any misstep he could take that he would, or whether it's from narcissism or something else, do you think it would be impossible for him to resign versus being pushed out?
Well, I kind of have an insider. I know somebody in my orbit that worked for the NIH or whatever the organization that he runs, that he's run for decades. I know this person knows Anthony Fauci to be extremely egotistical and almost narcissistic, to the point where even if there's blood on the wall, this man will not retire. He will defend himself to the end. And I think that's what we see in this Hugh Hewitt article, or this Hugh Hewitt episode, is that he's just not going to hear any negative stuff about himself. I think that's a glaring red flag. Nobody likes criticism, but you know, if the shoe fits.
And we can't forget that the majority of media and mainstream media is working together with elitist and globalist intentions. And they were putting Fauci on the covers of magazines as like a sex symbol, not as a professional medical opinion or mind, but in style. And that, you know, if the man wasn't already corrupted, you give a man that kind of power and prestige, but then ask him to end it all, cap it all off with resignation. Yeah. You know, that's going to be hard to get somebody to do after you've lifted him up on the world platform like that.
Here's a test for you. Go on to Amazon and type in Anthony Fauci or Tony Fauci, and you'll notice a lot of memorabilia, a lot of they actually have, you know, those Catholic candles that have the saints, and you light them to bring your household good favor. They actually have an Anthony Fauci candle that you can light in your house. And it's like,
you're being serious.
They want him to be, well, and they're talking about sanctifying him or canonizing him. And so I guess there's a lot of Catholic fans, but,
you're being serious about that.
I'm not joking. I mean, if you go, so test this out and then I don't care what it is, like pick another, public health official that you've ever heard of, like Michelle Walensky, put her name in, you won't find anything. So with Anthony, so that's a good test of, you know, it's kind of a good anecdotal test of narcissism, or this man that's forced himself into the ether. So Google him or put his name into Amazon, and you'll see all this memorabilia that you can buy, and then that doesn't exist for any other public health official, maybe except for maybe Ben Carson, which his is all you know, earned. He was the most famous neurosurgeon that separated conjoined twins. I mean, so, I mean, you might find a few signed books for him, but not sainted candles.
Yeah. So if you want Fauci to resign, stop lighting your Saint Fauci of Guadalupe candles, and Fauci, the Virgin Fauci of Guadalupe, or
I think, isn't he is he still a virgin? I think he might. I know he's been married for a while, but
I think they consummated, but they had their mask on. So
yes.
I don't know. I think it still counts.
And this was before the pandemic. That's how hardcore that dude is.
Yeah, so I think it still counts even if your mask is on.
Yeah.
Do that.
That just makes him sound more amazing. Just all that.
Yeah, maybe he should be canonized, Saint Fauci of Corona.
Yeah. All right. Well, that'll do it for another episode of 3F. Thank you guys. We love you, and we'll see you soon.
For exclusive content and bonus footage, please subscribe to our Patreon page at patreon.com/3F community. That's patreon.com/3F community. We'd love to have you join the family.